All right. Christine Lusignan, Minnesota Due Process Coach, reporting to you from the parking lot of one of my kids' sports because I've decided that I'm going to commit to 30 days of posting and being present again on the Minnesota Due Process Coach because that's what makes a habit and I need to start making it a priority again. And so I was like, I'm gonna pack my computers with me tonight and I'm gonna go. I'm a little nervous about my video that it might be a little pixelated because I'm streaming Wi-Fi from my phone. But those of you that listen on iTunes and Spotify, obviously you won't have to worry about the video. You'll just be listening, which I think is great too. I prefer it that way. And if I'm going to be listening back or anything like that. I actually ended up trying to record this video before I left, and then I didn't like it, which is like the story of my life. Um, it's been a long time since I've posted, and I feel like I say that a lot, right? Like I feel like I'm like, I'm back, and it's been so long, and then it doesn't happen again. And it's so funny because I've been looking at my Facebook memories and what keeps popping up is when I first started posting for Minnesota Due Process Coach last year, and how committed I was and excited, and I'm still excited and I'm still committed, and it's just life, man. And I say that every time, but it's so true. Like my kids are so busy. I think they're busier now than when they were little, and I 100% own that in priorities, right? Making the time for it. I spend a lot of time talking to people about things that I feel like I'm already doing what I love to do. But I do miss this platform a lot. And I haven't been very present on social media either for a variety of different reasons. Just, personal and professional and all of the above. So I'm trying really hard to commit myself to this now and kind of really give you all that I can. That's Minnesota Due Process Coach related. You're not going to find things about what it is to be a contractor. I've already told you what that is. I've already told you about that. I don't think I need to talk about it anymore. You want to do it? Cool. Reach out. Awesome. If you don't, that's great too. I have a lot of amazing friends that are district employees, and I think we continue to need district employees. So there's that. It's a crazy season right now. So much going on, right? Um, this is that weird, long, awkward stretch before spring break that is so freaking hard for every single educator, from administrator to teacher to para, because it's a long time without a break. We did just have like President's Day, and some people had longer breaks or PD and all of that, but nothing beats spring break when you're in the trenches. And I think that's still true, um, even out of the classroom. I'm just adjusting my computer here. Bear with me. Nobody wants to see my double chin, um, that I work so hard to get rid of. And so I think it's hard right now. I think the climate of education continues to be really, really hard. And I think it's hard, kids. I think it's the constraints that we're under for a lot of different things, financial pressures, all different things like that, trying to make do with what we have, high caseloads, high volume, needy kids. Not just behavior needy, but I think academically needy. We're really seeing the effects of COVID really come out. Um, so it's hard, right? And we have teacher shortages and shortages and sub shortages and you name it. And I think there's a shortage of something in education, and it's hard to be in an educational setting right now, especially sometimes with the climate that things are and how parents are and all of the above. And I say that from a parent myself. It's hard to step back sometimes and be like, you got to take a step back, Christine. This is hard for everyone. So I haven't posted because I think there's just so much going on and it's so heavy sometimes in education right now. And we're all kind of just in the thick of it. So I just, I guess, want to acknowledge that for everyone that we're all feeling that, we're all in the thick of it and we see you and we hear you. I mean, I literally was just having a conversation with one of my friends last week about how crazy this job is right now. I don't even know how to say it any other way. Like, I love my job, but some days it's so crazy, and some days I'm like, oh, this is insane. Um, yeah, I don't even, yeah. And we were just talking about it, and the demands are different, and it's so different than when we started 15 to 20 years ago. A lot of us, what education looks like now is not what it looks like today, or what it looked like then. It doesn't look like today. And I actually ran into a friend too, and we were talking about that of like this burnout of the all of us that have been teaching for 15 to 20 years now, really feeling it heavy. And I don't honestly sometimes know how people have been in education for 30 plus years because it's crazy out there. Um, it's crazy. There's no other way to put it. So, when I get on by myself, it's really hard because I don't always know what fully to talk about, right? Like people call me and ask me questions or text me or email me, whatever. And so I feel like in the thick of it, and I've always said this, I'm always answering things. So if there's ever anything anybody wants to talk about in the next 30 days, and I'm going to say this, like I am not posting every single day on here as a podcast. I will post probably once a week like I was previously with different people coming on because it's always more fun when I can have conversations and we can talk back and forth, and it just makes things flow a lot better. And then 30 minutes goes by like so fast sometimes. I'm also in the works of some more sped forms content because I think that's so, so important. There's so many things that have changed in sped forms. There's so many things that we're doing now that are so different than before that I think it's important to really, really highlight those. So I'm hopeful, fingers crossed, we can get a couple more in the books because I find them to be really insightful and important. And then obviously bringing you great people on here. Obviously, I think everyone that I bring on is amazing. So shout out to that. Again, if you want to be part of the Minnesota Due Process Coach, reach out to me, call me, text me, find me on Insta. I would love to have you. I love meeting new people or people that I didn't think would maybe want to be on the show. So holler at your girl here. Yeah, so much stuff is happening lately, right? Like I just said, we're prepping for ESY. Remember that there's the ESY podcast from last year that I did with Ariel that is amazing. It'll help you. We're planning for ESY. We're prepping for ESY. We're getting dates ready. We're getting data ready. We're talking about recruitment and recruitment, right? Like all of the above for ESY and ESY prep. Need any suggestions on that? Let me know. I have a really great checklist that I made. If you know me, I love making documents. Checklists, guidance documents, lots of different things. Um, so much is going on lately, right? Like, yeah, I don't even know. I'm trying to think of some good tidbits. One that happened today that I think is super important to talk about, and one that I honestly when I read statute, I read it in a different way than apparently it was supposed to be interpreted, which, mind you, happens a lot because we all interpret things different. So getting opinions from a lot of people is always good. Conciliation memos. We've been doing a lot of conciliations lately. So just FYI, maybe this isn't new to you. It's new to me. Shouldn't be new to me, but when I read the statute, this is how I interpreted it. And then everybody was like, well, Christine, and I was like, oh, you're right. Um, the IEP and the PWN that you're proposing has to go within 5 days of the conciliation memo. I was under the impression under revisor, because mind you, it says two different things, which is frustrating with revisor sometimes, and I'll get to that. The conciliation memo and the IEP and the PWN have to go out within 5 days. I made the mistake. You don't make it. You heard it here. Maybe you didn't hear it here. Maybe you knew and you're like, duh, Christine. You should have known that, which, I kick myself in the end because I should have known that. So that's kind of frustrating. I hate when I do that. It's super frustrating. Um, yeah, so that's a big one. Ugh. But brings me to my other points, which is kind of what I was talking about earlier when I was trying to record. Revisor and MDE and all of these places are a huge wealth of knowledge, right? And I was talking to an executive director about this. And it's interesting because he said the same thing. He was like, Christine, not everyone in MDE talks to each other, so it's inconsistent across the board. And I had this happen with something else that I'll talk about. But everything's, I shouldn't say everything. I hate to say it that way. A lot of things in special education are open to interpretation, right? Of your executive director and your director. A lot of things are not black and white. A lot of things live in the gray, and they're open to however that director wants to interpret that or interpret the what it states. There are a lot of things, mind you, also that are black and white in revisor and in statute that you must follow, right? And are rigid and just are very rule bound. So remembering that. And so we really have to work on this balance of what's actually required um by law and what is actually not. So I'm sorry, I'm watching things in the parking lot because I'm such a nosy Nelly. If you know me, you know me. Um, I'm so nosy sometimes. Squirrel. Um, so I just talked about this in length at a due process event and then also had a lot of side conversations around this. At the end of the day, whatever your director, your executive director chooses to interpret the statute, the MDE information as, that is what is followed for your district, whether that is what you would do or not. Because when we sign up to work in these districts and we get hired, whether you're a contractor or an employee, you are falling in line on ultimately with what that director's beliefs are. And sometimes they are different than you. And I think it's important to engage in that conversation of like, I see it this way, you see it that way. Let's come to a meeting place. But I also think that you have to at the end of the day that person makes the ultimate decision. So I've really had that conversation a lot with people that that is the ultimate decision at the end of the day is what these directors are stating and what they set forth for the district, which I think is super important. And quite honestly, I 100% respect that because if I were to be running a district, I would want staff to adhere to the way that I like to do things or the way that I interpret the law or MDE or whatever gets pushed out. Now, granted, there's a lot of things that are not open for interpretation and we have to follow them, right? Like PWN guidance and 14 days and consent and 30 days for evaluations. Like there's a lot of things that are very, very rigid, but there's a lot of things that are very much open to interpretation. And I think it's important to have healthy conversation around it. But at the end of the day, like I said, you are listening to the director or the executive director. And I think things are very different when it comes to charters versus traditional districts. They see things very different. Charters are very loose on things, whereas traditional districts tends to be tighter. I lean on a more traditional district side of things just because that's my type A personality. And if you know me, you know me. I like to follow the rules and follow the law, and that's just who I am. I don't really like things open for interpretation because I think there's a larger margin for error at that point and a lot more loosey-goosey with staff. And like, ooh, maybe I don't have to follow it, and it's not always this way. Um, so again, open for interpretation. Tangent. With that example, right, just like I gave the example of what I just learned with the conciliation memo, I had a school psych reach out to an SLD person at MDE. Very well-known SLD person. She's a huge wealth of knowledge, former psychologist, but lives in that SLD world. And again, siloed area of MDE. So she only sees SLD and those facets around it and not the side of compliance. And she gave information that was incorrect and not compliant to a psych that was calling. I had the conversation with the psych and I was like, hey, listen, I get it, but that's not compliant and we don't need to, we, no, we don't, we can't do that. The example was that you could just extend an evaluation for a student by sending out another PWN and you get 30 more days, right? You're extending out. Not the case anymore. That was during COVID times that we were able to extend evaluations out past the 30 days. But when COVID ended, that ended as well. And MDE was very clear about that. If you are adding testing, or doing any of that, you need to get it done within your 30 days. If you cannot, or you need to do more testing after your 30-day window is over, you close the evaluation, close it as is, right? Incomplete, or get it complete to the best way possible. This was an initial, so I would say DNQ the student because they didn't qualify. And then you're going to reopen, add the new testing, file review the old testing, and then see if there's qualification. Ultimately, you're going to be doing two evaluations, which nobody likes to hear, but that's the cleanest, most compliant way. The direction given from MDE was not that, but it wasn't MDE in the order of compliance. It was MDE in a completely different siloed area of SLD. So again, like not talking to each other, great wealth of information, has a lot and knows a lot, but not the correct information we should be giving out. So super important to understand. Um, so that was like another big instance lately, which has been really interesting. And I've had a lot of conversations with different directors around of all these different facets and areas that's different within MDE and different within um our own districts. So yeah, I mean, just a lot going on lately, right? Like so much to learn always. I always say that, like we're always learning. We should always be learning. Like education is so interesting to me because I feel like I learn something new every day. I was laughing today with my director because she's like, "Remember, Christine, about the compliance memos?" And I was like, "Yes." But I would have never, I mean, I would have, I guess, if I would have probably asked around. I take that back, but I didn't, right? I just went off a revisor and we all do that. And sometimes we make mistakes and we have to own it. And so, like, I mean, and a lot of times I really do a lot of research by calling different people, and sometimes everyone gives me the same answer, and then sometimes people don't. Sometimes people are like, no, Christine, that's not right. Um, I feel differently. And then we have an open conversation around what that looks like because sometimes it does. Like some people interpret it different than I do. And I love that. Those are my favorite conversations. So yeah, lots to unpack, right? So that's all I have really for tonight. I mean, actually, I shouldn't say that. I have a lot more. But that's a story for another day. And I think a good conversation when we have other people here. Um, I would love it. Like, I would absolutely love it if you would put a topic below that you want to hear about or talk about, or you want me to go more in depth around. Um, that would be super cool. I would appreciate it. And then I look forward to engaging and pushing out more content, excuse me, for the next 30 days. Hopefully not always from my car. But you never know. This is life and this is how it is. And so I look forward to seeing everyone. Thanks.